Hey, my name is Reed and I have a YouTube channel called CarnivorousChef. I'm going to use you to help me make this video. Can you introduce yourself in 2 to 3 sentences?
Hey everyone, I'm ChatGPT, here to help Reed from CarnivorousChef craft some amazing carnivore-friendly recipes. We're taking classic dishes from around the world and transforming them into meat-based masterpieces. Let's dive in and make some delicious, protein-packed meals.
I need 3 creative recipes to give to my audience. Can you go ahead and show me those?
Carnivore French onion meatballs, a rich, cheesy, and beefy take on French onion soup without the onions. Carnivore chaffle pizza, a crispy, cheese-based crust topped with meat and more cheese. Carnivore chicken fried steak with bacon gravy, a crunchy, cheesy take on a comfort food classic.
Alright, I'll do what the man said. Or robot? I don't know. Let's start making these. Alright, this one is Carnivore French onion meatballs, France-inspired. It's a rich, cheesy, and beefy take on French onion soup without the onions. And since this is a French take on something, I went ahead and did my mise en place, which is ground beef, 1 egg, a half cup of shredded Parmesan, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper in here. It did say 1 teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of optional black pepper. Since I am a human and know how to cook, I already know that a half teaspoon of black pepper is already way too much, and I dropped a 1/4 teaspoon of salt from its measurements because I know the Parmesan's already going to be pretty salty. 1 cup of beef broth, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 1/4 cup of heavy cream, and a half cup of shredded Swiss cheese. So, if you already have your ingredients ready, let's go ahead and get started. So, step 1, mix ground beef, egg, Parmesan, salt, and pepper. So, I guess I'll just mix until I get bored of mixing. And, you know, you don't have to go too crazy. And just as a reminder, don't forget that if you overmix this, it will get tougher. If you want that, that's fine. If you want soft and tender meatballs, then you just want to get it barely mixed. And that looks pretty good to me. So after it's mixed, it says to roll into meatballs. It does not give me a weight for the meatballs. It doesn't give me a size. It just says roll into meatballs. So I'm just going to do 2-ounce meatballs. That's usually what I go with, 1.5 to 2 ounce. And I think I've shown you how to do this about 400 times over the past year or so. But if you need another lesson, just grab 2-ounce wad of meat, roll it up, press it together a little bit, and set it down. You got a little meaty guy, and we're going to continue doing that until all the meat is used up. All right, we got the meatballs ready, and the next step is to sear meatballs in butter until brown, then set aside. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my butter in here. I've got this pan set to medium heat. As soon as this gets melted, I'm going to start adding my meatballs, and we're going to watch together as it melts. I will say that these meatballs are already quite fatty. It's weird that they want the extra butter, but you know what? I'm not going to complain about it. I bet this is going to be pretty tasty when it's done. Oh, I got 9 meatballs. I miscounted. Oh, I forgot about the weight of the eggs and the Parmesan. Once they're released from the pan, go ahead and start flipping them. I mean, honestly, they're smelling pretty good already. I think the butter's browning a little bit. It's helping to get that caramelized flavor even deeper into it. Plus, you got the brown bits that are caramelized from the beef. All right, I think these are good and seared enough. Remove these from the pan and set aside. They're still very raw in the middle, but we will be returning them to the pan soon. All right, next up, in the same pan, we will add beef broth, followed by heavy cream. And it says to reduce this slightly. I'm going to go ahead and start just kind of gently scraping the bottom to get the beef bits off of it. Pretty much just want to get this boiling. And once it is bubbling, I'm going to let this do its thing until it's about 1/3 reduced. But right now, it's still pretty watery, and I want it to be a little bit thicker than this. I want some texture to my soup. All right, once it's gotten to where you want it, you're going to add the meatballs back in. Don't forget to add any plate juices. Then we will top with our Swiss cheese. And it says to cover and let it melt, but again, I'm a human. I want this to like look and taste even better than that. I'm going to throw this into the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit until, number 1, the meatballs are cooked all the way through, and number 2, the cheese is actually like bubbly and brown, so that it looks like this. It went for about 10 minutes in total, with the last 2 minutes being on broil, just so I could get this cheese kind of even more melted. It's super hot right now. I highly recommend letting this sit for 5 to 10 minutes before you even begin to think about eating this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer, and when I come back, we're going to give it a taste finally. I added some parsley just for color. I need a pretty picture like always. Start with the meatball. It is cooked all the way through. Smells nice. It's still so hot. Rich and beefy. Let's try this steaming hot soup. Again, rich and beefy. I feel like the soup is actually even more beefy than the meatball, which is kind of crazy. I will say there is a thick layer of butter on top from where it did not tell me to remove the butter from the pan. That's fine, it's just a little extra fat, but if you're conscious of that and you don't want all that extra fat, just take the butter out of the pan before you add your broth and your heavy cream. But I will say this, overall, this is actually a pretty solid dish. I've done something similar to this where I was doing ground beef bowls and I did a French onion ground beef bowl. This is kind of on par, but there's definitely no onion flavor whatsoever. If you want to add some like onion powder, or if you eat onions and you want to add caramelized onions to this, it would make it just that much better. But honestly, this is just a solid beef meatball soup. Oh, hey, how you doing? So ChatGPT decided to come up with carnivore chaffle pizza, Italy inspired. A crispy cheese-based crust topped with meat and more cheeses. I'm going to jump right into this one. You're going to need to mix eggs, mozzarella, and Parmesan cheese. It says 1 cup of mozzarella and a ½ cup of Parmesan cheese, but later on in the instructions, it wants me to pour extra cheese on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take most of the mozzarella, as well as, like, I don't know, 3/4 of the Parmesan or so, and I will give that a gentle yet passionate forking. We get our goopy chaffle mixture ready to go, and the next thing we want to do is get our waffle maker hot. I've got a green light saying it's ready to go. I'm actually kind of scared to use this right now because I did take it apart to clean it, and things are a little bit wonky. If you can't see, this handle is like, meh. I'm just going to go with it. I've got my fire hydrant ready just in case something catches on fire for no reason. It doesn't tell me to do this, but it also says that I need a tablespoon of butter in the recipe, but nowhere in the recipe does it say where to use it or when to use it. So I'm going to assume that I need it for my waffle maker. Even though this is a non-stick waffle maker, we'll be adding just a little bit of butter across all of this just to kind of help it give some insurance that it doesn't stick like crazy. And we'll say that's good enough. Take our eggy cheese mixture and pour it right in. Definitely might be too much, but we will we'll see soon. I can't remember the last time I have actually made a chaffle. It's probably been, I don't know, 5 years at this point. Get that in, close it up, and we'll let it do its thing. And it is spilling over the sides, just like I expected it would. It'll just have to be okay at this point. I can't really stop it. Oh, God. Smells very eggy and like cheese. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and check out and see how it feels. Feels fluffy. Doesn't feel very crispy like it says it would do. But that's not the fault of ChatGPT. I'm gonna let that just kind of go for another 30 seconds. Alright, that is good enough for me. I don't want to continue to cook this anymore. And I will do my best to lift this thing up. It's actually very light. Kind of expected it to kind of like be thick, but it did not. It just kind of smashed into like a cheese omelet. Oh. Alright. Oh, God, that was a lot. So, there's the chaffle. The next step is to make yet another cream sauce. Huh, alright. That's fine. For this one, I will be needing a ½ cup of pepperoni slices. This is, I don't know, some pepperoni slices. I've got the pan set over medium heat. All I'm going to do is get these cooked down, I guess. This is already, it's starting to get real weird real fast. I don't know, man. And it should look like this, it's just kind of, you know, generally wet pepperonis at this point. To that, we're going to add 1/4 cup of heavy cream, which will be our sauce. All I'm going to do is reduce this until it is nice and thickened, and it is bright orange. And honestly, I think that's pretty good right there. Is get an oven-safe pan, add our chaffle to that, pour over our pepperoni cream sauce, I guess. I'm so confused right now, but it's okay. I didn't come up with this. Kind of just spread that all over. Sprinkle over your mozzarella, rest of your Parmesan. And the final step is to broil for a minute or until the cheese is crispy and bubbly. So, to the broiler. And after roughly 2 minutes, this is what we're left with. It did get a little bit brown. Cheese is melted. And let's get this out into a plate. Nice. So it looks pretty plain, to be honest. What I'm going to do is add just a small pinch of Italian seasoning and obviously some parsley for color. Don't know where my pizza wheel is right off, so I'm just going to cut this bad boy with a knife. You know what? For talking so much smack about it while I was cooking it, it actually looks pretty good. It's pretty much just a pizza omelet at this point. All right, let's give it a taste. Now, I don't know if this is practical for anybody else. It is very good, honestly, for what it is. But there's also roughly 6 ounces of cheese in here. And personally, I don't feel great eating a half pound of cheese at one point. But if you're going to make this and share this with 3 other people, I can see that being a great way of having like a taste of pizza. I hate that because it is good. It tastes good, but there's so much cheese. Overall, I will say that AI did a pretty good job with this one. The flavor's there. I was very weirded out by the pepperoni cream sauce, and it made it a little bit easier because I didn't have to layer anything. I literally just dumped it on top. All right, and for the third one, we have the Carnivore chicken fried steak with bacon gravy, a Southern USA inspired recipe. So we need 2 thin cut beef steaks, cube steak or sirloin. But first I want to get my half cup of crushed pork rinds ready. Food processor, and then press the process button to get these crushed up. And it says we'll need a half cup of these along with a half cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I don't have a grater anymore, so it's a little shredder. And then first we need to mix the pork rinds and the Parmesan along with the salt. It says a teaspoon of salt, but it sounds pretty aggressive with the amount of pork rinds I have here that are definitely salted, as well as a salty Parmesan. So what I'm going to do is not add any salt. Go ahead and mix this up together because I think this is going to be plenty salty enough. Set that aside and we'll pull out my steak, which is going to be sirloin. I was going to get cube steak just so I didn't have to do anything to this, but this sounded better. I don't want this whole thing, so I'm going to cut 2 steaks out of this, which will be this section without all the crazy connective tissue. I'm going to save the rest for me for later. And I want it to fit in my container, so what I'm going to do is split this in half, kind of measure it. Looks good to me. That one also looks good. Then you want to grab yourself a piece of plastic, lay it over your steaks, and what we're going to do now, take something kind of heavy, like this stainless pan, and just start flattening it out. And you should be left with a nice, thin little steaky guy. I'm gonna put these onto a small plate. I'm gonna hit them with a bit of salt on both sides just to go ahead and get that seasoned. This is roughly, I don't know, a 1/4 teaspoon in total. And then we will need 2 eggs. Use your strongest spoon that you have to get these beaten. If you have a strong spoon, it's better than any fork or whisk you can ever use, just because the tensile strength of the spoon will help you to get a better mix on these eggs, because we want a pretty homogeneous egg dip. The next step is to dip the steak into the beaten eggs and then coat with the pork rind mixture. However, it says to fry this in bacon grease over medium heat until crispy. I don't have bacon grease, but I do need bacon for this recipe. So let's go ahead and get that cooking up. I will need a 1/4 cup of crumbled bacon, which is going to be about 4 strips of bacon. I'm going to go ahead and cook 5 strips of bacon just so I can have the extra grease in here. And then I will measure out my 1/4 cup. And so that we can get the maximum amount of bacon grease from our bacon, I'm going to add a big splash of water to that. All the water is evaporated at this point. Now it's just frying in bacon. I do have a good amount of bacon grease in there, which is nice. I'm going to let this finish, and then we can get our steaks breaded. You're going to take your steak, put in your egg, get the egg off. Jeez, man, come on. Put it in your crumbs. I'm going to press that in just a little bit. We'll give it a flip. Try to keep one hand wet, one dry, and then we will repeat. And they should look a bit like this. And then next up, we're gonna head back over to our pan, where I'm pretty sure I got at least a 1/4 cup of bacon grease. But for now, I've got my pan set over medium heat. I'm gonna throw my steaks in. It doesn't tell me how long to cook them. It just says heat until crispy. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go for about 3 minutes per side. All right, it's been a few minutes. Give it a flip. All of that stuck. Let's give this one a flip. It's also stuck. Wow. All right. This isn't going as planned. I do want to flip it. I think I'm just going to have to go for it. Yep, that's what I thought would happen. I'm going to give this one another chance to, I'm going to give this a little longer just to make sure it doesn't stick, but the first one stuck, so I have a feeling this one's going to stick too. All right, that one's coming up a little bit. That one's looking way better. I'm going to flip it. It definitely stuck, but whatever, it'll be okay. You know, I don't really see this as too big of a problem if it does stick, because as Anthony Bourdain says, an ounce of sauce covers a multitude of sins. So, and we'll be covering this in a bacon gravy or whatever it's called. So I'm not going to be, I am upset about this one. This is just not working. It's completely off the rails on here. I will get the crispy bits up, and we'll just put these right on top so we can have that crunch. And then for the gravy, mix heavy cream and crumbled bacon into the pan. All I did was take my cooked bacon and chopped it up. Half cup of heavy cream. We're going to let that reduce and start scraping the bottom too, because that's where all the extra flavor is. And as soon as this is thickened up, we're going to pour this over our steaks and we'll see how it is. We'll add just a little bit of salt to this because it definitely needs it. Pour it right on top of our steaks. I'm just going to hit this with a little shaved parsley just for some extra color and for a nicer photo. And there we have our chicken fried steak with bacon gravy. It honestly looks pretty good. Like, I wasn't expecting it to look as good as it does, but pretty appetizing. And it might just be because I'm a big old southern boy and whatnot, but let's give this a taste and see how it is. Got my little mini cleaver. Let's get a cut. Let's get some of that extra gravy on top. That's what you have to look forward to. Man, honestly, it's pretty damn good. I've actually got a medium on these steaks. Overall, I'd give this a thumbs up. The only critique I have is going to be the Parmesan and the crust. It wants a half cup of Parmesan cheese, which is just a lot of Parmesan cheese. And considering that this entire dish is like very rich, I think you could probably either ease back on the Parmesan to about a quarter cup or just avoid it altogether and then like shred some on top or add it into the sauce. But who knows? It's still good. Well, that was pretty interesting, if I do say so myself. I think overall, I would give ChatGPT like a 3 out of 5 stars on how well it did with coming up with recipes that were at least somewhat interesting and sticking to what I personally eat and a lot of other people eat on this diet. I deducted the 2 stars because all 3 of these dishes were basically cream sauce dishes. Like, I just dumped cream into literally everything. And then there was some meat and some eggs, which was fine. It did what it could do with the parameters that I gave it. But before I leave you, I want to say thank you to Carnivore Companion for sponsoring this video. Use code CarnivorousChef at checkout for 20% off your order. All of our seasonings were designed to have nothing in them that you can't understand. Shouldn't have to go to Google to figure out what something is in your food, and we want to keep it that way. So check us out, links in the description below, and don't forget to use code CarnivorousChef at checkout. Well, that's the video. If you want to see more stuff like this, or even a round 2 of this video, please let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, just give it a like. If you didn't like it, I really don't care. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and we'll see y'all next time.